Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Another new legendary card coming in Hearthstone's Titans expansion is Ignis, the Eternal Flame. A 4-mana 2/4 with a Battlecry. If you forged a card in this game, craft a custom weapon. Yes, every class will get access to custom weapons. Pretty thematic for Ignis, because in World of Warcraft, Ignis is the furnace master of Ulduar, and he's a master smith. He has created a lot of weapons, a lot of armor. He's a fire giant construct that was originally created by Keeper Loken, and now in World of Warcraft's timeline, he's an optional raid boss in Ulduar, because at that point, everything in Ulduar is kind of corrupted by Yogg-Saron, so is Ignis. But after the player characters cleanse Ulduar, then Ignis is actually reconstructed eventually by the keepers to continue his duties as a smith. And what a smith he is in Hearthstone as well. We have an explanation of how Ignis works from Leo Robles Mintifresh from the design team. Ignis, the Eternal Flame. How does he work? For those familiar with Savjz, it's similar to that. For those not familiar, let me explain. You are shown 3 choices of 3. First, cost and stats, then a simple effect, then a scaling effect, and the final weapon is added to your hand. First you get to pick the cost and stats. You can either make a 1-mana 2/2 weapon, a 5-mana 3/4 weapon, or a 10-mana 5/6 weapon. And your weapon will have one simple keyword: poisonous, lifesteal, wind fury, immune while attacking, or also damages adjacent minions. Note that you get to choose from only 3 options, which means that in order to find a specific individual option like Wind Fury, you get offered that 60% of the time. If you're happy with one of 2 options, let's say you're fine with Lifesteal or Wind Fury, then you're going to get that 90% of the time. And the same also applies to the scaling effect. The final option is, like the second option, a random choice from a pool of 5, but this time the options are totally different. These options all have scaled outputs based on your choice for option 1, the size of the weapon. So you can get, after a hero attacks, summon a random 2-cost minion for a 1-mana weapon, 4-cost minion for the 5-mana weapon, or 8-cost minion for the 10-mana weapon. Or after a hero attacks, gain 2, 4, or 8 armor, Battlecry, deal 2, 4, or 6 damage. After a hero attacks, draw 1, 2, or 3 cards, or a Death Rattle, deal 1, 2, or 4 damage to all enemies. Note that the scaling of these abilities is a little bit different. For example, after a hero attacks, summon a random 2, 4, 8-cost minion, so that doubles every time. However, drawing cards is just 1, 2, 3. And Battlecry is just deal 2, 4, 6 damage. So the Battlecry scaling, for example, getting a 10-mana weapon with the Battlecry is not that attractive. Whereas getting a 10-mana weapon that summons 8-cost minions, especially if you can pick that up with something like Wind Fury, that could be really attractive. But note that you are not always offered any of the individual options, so that means that with the scaling, that 10-mana weapon has some definite weaknesses. And for those reasons, you typically are aiming for the 5-mana weapon. Because if you take the 1-mana weapon, okay, the 1-mana weapon actually is pretty great for a 1-mana weapon. I mean, 1-mana 2/2, some keyword plus does some more stuff. That's just crazy good for a 1-mana weapon. But you don't get that 1-mana weapon very early in the game. Ignis costs 4 mana. You have to have forged something before you play Ignis in order to get the weapon. So getting a 1-mana weapon at that stage of the game is typically just not that impactful. There are still moments where 1-mana weapon is the right choice. You have just enough mana to immediately play it. It will have the immediate effect you need it. Yeah, there are still options for that. But 5-mana weapon coming on curve, for example, after Ignis can be quite strong. Whereas the 10-mana weapon, the scaling of some of the abilities is quite poor, so if you don't get offered the ability to scale really well, then the 10-mana weapon can be a little bit lackluster, and obviously also 10-mana weapon uses all of your mana on turn 10, so how do you even get there? It's just, there's a lot of problems involved with that. Which means that most of the time you will want to pick up a 5-mana weapon from Ignis. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.